Ah yes, it's finally here. The time of year where we're not even close to done with the games we have in our hands, but as ruthless, greedy, starving Pokemon fans, we're looking for the next thing, and the next thing, and the next thing. And this time, the next thing seems to be Unova remakes. But wait! Last year Pokemon did something interesting. After Sword and Shield's DLC, Pokemon decided to go big with the remainder of Gen 8, not just by giving us Diamond and Pearl remakes. No. They also gave us Pokemon Legends Arceus, a reimagining of Pokemon as we know it, a game set in the distant past. And now with Gen 9 and Scarlet and Violet's Blueberry Academy taking place in Unova, and nothing major on the horizon for Pokemon moving forward, everyone is shifting their attention to potential Unova remakes, as well as the fabled Pokemon Legends Kyurem. And honestly speaking, the rumors of these remakes and Legends Kyurem didn't start because of the Blueberry Academy. They started much earlier, all because we had hints towards these games lined up all the way back from Pokemon Black and Pokemon White and Sword and Shield. And today, we're going to be covering every single one of these hints from that point onwards, but not before we cover the sponsor of today's video. If you feel like your experience is holding you back from pursuing the career that you wish, then I'm excited to tell you about today's sponsor, Southern New Hampshire University. SNHU has to be one of the largest accredited non-profit online degree offerings in the country, and I wanted to talk to you about their game development program. In this program, you'll learn how to create realistic, dynamic gameplay experiences with game AI, game physics, 2D and 3D graphics, and interface design. You'll also learn computer programming languages like C++, C#, and Java, and you'll learn 3D modeling and texturing with game art software. You'll learn how to research, develop, and contribute to advances and trends within the field of programming. Courses are taught by faculty with real-world experience. SNHU is radically affordable. Their online tuition rates are some of the lowest in the nation. Go to snhu.edu/HybridHero, also linked in my description, to see what the current average annual salary for a programmer is and request free information about the program. When you request information, a real person will hop on a call and discuss how the program could benefit you personally. It only takes one click to find your calling. Let's take this in chronological order. This is the first, but technically it could be the last. It's almost like a paradox. The Paradox Pokemon Legendary Beasts and the Three Musketeers are interesting. I didn't understand it at first as to why these sets of Pokemon were chosen. Yes, they probably want to do something for every legendary trio at this point, as in the Crown Tundra, the legendary birds got new forms, and the Reggie trio got 2 new members. But it was so strange that they were keeping the legendary beasts as Paradoxes in Scarlet, and the Musketeers as Paradoxes in Violet. Now, with all the Unova hype, the Musketeers kind of make sense. But the Beasts, how does that relate to Unova at all? Well, if you remember all the way back in the day, the Legendary Beasts were actually some of our first introductions to Gen 5 and Unova. Not only did Zoroark debut as our first 5th gen Pokemon in a movie with the Beasts, but there was also an in-game event where the Beast would appear as a disguised Zoroark in the games. And seeing as how Walking Wake, Iron Leaves, Raging Bolt, Iron Crown, and the other 2 Paradoxes will probably be native to the Blueberry Academy in Unova, we can also take this as a hint that we will get more from Unova, as this is basically letting us know that there's more to Unova than we think in relation to Gen 9. Now, Pokemon Black and White actually had a lot of hints in this regard, a lot of things that can be seen as hints to Gen 9 now, but that's a video that I'll have to save for a different date, in case you guys are all interested. Sword and Shield also had an incredibly weird but crazy hint from its DLC. When picking one of the DLC bikes, you actually get to pick between the Sparkling White bike and the Glistening Black bike, which is crazy because these legit sound like proper titles that you would give to a remake of Pokemon Black and White. And honestly, it's not too crazy for Game Freak to have this ready in advance, because if Black and White was going to be so closely integrated with Scarlet and Violet, anyways then they probably would have thought about this ahead of time. So it is possible that these are just straight up the names of the remake. Pokemon Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl didn't give us anything as far as I'm aware, because, you know, they're just straight up one-to-one subpart versions of Diamond and Pearl, but Legends Arceus? Oh man, Legends Arceus was the goldmine for hints towards potential Unova remakes and a Legends Kyurem game. The first thing to point out here, and the most notable thing to point out here, is the fact that the Unovan Pokemon got a ton of love in these games. Now, I get it. Gen 5 is getting to that point where it's becoming old, so it's falling in line with Gens 1 to 4, where you can start to give some of these Pokemon special treatment. Yeah, sure, but that's not it. Gen 5 literally got the most love in the entirety of Legends Arceus, with there being a new Basculin form, a new Pokemon in the 2 forms of Basculegion, Hisuian Braviary, Hisuian Zorua, Hisuian Zoroark, Hisuian Lilligant, Hisuian Samurott, which is a starter so it's passable, and the craziest one of all, Enamorus. Enamorus is such an interesting Pokemon to have. Many of you may have thought that Enamorus was a very unnecessary Pokemon to have join the Legendary Genie Trio, or the Forces of Nature, but actually, funny enough, the Legendary Genies should have always had another member. And before I explain why this is, I'd just like to remind you all that 92% of my audience is unsubscribed. So in case you are enjoying the video, be sure to subscribe and hit the little bell icon for more content. And hit that like or dislike button so I know how you're feeling about the video. The reason why they needed another member is because in the Therian forms, Landorus, Tornadus, and Thundurus are actually based on the 4 Chinese legends: the Black Tortoise of the north, the Azure Dragon of the east, the Vermilion Bird of the south, and the White Tiger of the west. Those of you who are born in the 90s or the early 2000s and are cultured may remember the original main Bit Beast in Beyblade being based off these 4 legends, or even the Digimon Sovereign in Digimon Tamers, so it's a common concept. But hey, wait a minute, something's not right here. Landorus isn't white. Thought it was supposed to be the White Tiger, and oh yeah, they are missing a 4th member, but yeah, that's where Enamorus comes into play, who isn't black either, but it's okay. Technically a part of Black and White now anyways. But yeah, Enamorus covers for the Tortoise, Landorus the Tiger, Thundurus the Dragon, and Tornadus the Bird. And technically, they cover the 4 seasons as well, which means this group was always going to have a 4th member, or at least it should have always had a 4th member, but for some reason they decided to only give it during the time of Legends Arceus. It's so strange to me and everyone else that they would only do this because they had ample time all throughout, whether that be Sword and Shield or any time in between then and Black and White to do so, but they only did it now. And this is on top of all the other Unova Pokemon and hints within PLA, specifically through the characters of Ingo and Alder. Now I've had many videos on Alder by now talking about why the agent here shown off in PLA is actually just time traveling Alder, but more notably is Ingo a follower in these games, which means at some point Unova's future Ingo goes through a wormhole or a time-space distortion and enters Hisui. We know it's the future because, at least until Black and White 2, he's there within Unova, and we all know by now that Blu-ray Academy isn't future Unova, so there's a good chance that we may see Ingo and possibly maybe even Emmett in the Blu-ray Academy, if not in future Unova titles in 2024. I made a whole video talking about it here, why the 2 brothers may return, but yeah. Between Enamorus, Alder, Ingo, all the Unova Pokemon, and Lian, since Lian's Clay's ancestor, and also because he's Clay's ancestor, he's also Lacey's ancestor, PLA was chock full of all kinds of hints towards future Unova games. At the time, we were all surprised by the amount of Unova content in the games, but now it's so easy to tell that, yeah, it's all just a huge lead up for 2024. And finally, coming to Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, we had many hints within these games that people didn't take as hints at first, but now after the reveal that Blu-ray Academy is indeed in Unova, we know many of them actually were. Starting off with the fact that just like how Kid Kami and the Teal Mask were teased in the base game of Scarlet and Violet with the poster they threw around everywhere, Scarlet and Violet actually has an NPC, the new Pokemaniac, who actually sports a logo of Unova's PokeStar Studio in Scarlet and Violet. And while it may hint at Blu-ray Academy and Unova's closeness to Paldea, it very well may also be hinting towards a future Black and White title, similar to how the Spanish trainer in Sword and Shield hinted to Scarlet and Violet. And of course, we know that most likely all of the Blu-ray Academy trainers are probably related to Unova characters in some way. Drayton and Lacey for sure, but if they are related, then we're missing a lot of in-between information. A possible Unova remake or a Unova game could fill in these gaps and introduce these characters to us at an earlier time. The Paradox Beast and the Swords are again most likely only found in Unova, which is interesting because that would mean that these are the only Paradox Pokemon found in another region, so we would need some extra lore on that. But just like PLA, Scarlet and Violet has given us a bunch of Unova and Paradox Pokemon for almost no reason. I don't know, it's interesting seeing how much love Unova is getting back to back. Unova has 4 Paradox Pokemon in total, which is the most tied with Johto, which we'll come back to at a later time, but for now, yeah, Unova's been getting a lot of love here too. King Gambit is also there, but I don't think that's anything to really look into. But what's interesting is that on the Switch, there are only 9 Pokemon that aren't available in any main series Pokemon game. The Elemental Monkeys and their evolutions, the Patrat family, and Furfrou. Furfrou aside, the rest of these Pokemon are all Unova Pokemon. And you know what will ensure their return on these systems? That's right, a Unova game. Which, all the more reason to make one, to be honest. I don't know what Furfrou is gonna do though, unless we get like a Legends game or a sequel. Then they can slap him in there as well. Why not? Also, while it's not a part of the games, in the TCG they actually made mention that they will be bringing back the A-Spec trainer cards. These are Gen 5 specific trainer cards that only appeared during that time, and they revealed it at Pokemon Worlds 2023, alongside the newly released Paradox Rift set. So, this is before we knew that Blueberry Academy was in Unova. But if it was just the Indigo Disc, I don't think they'd be making a return. I honestly think that this is a much more significant hint to future Unova titles than what most people may think. But hey, I also just might be crazy. What do you guys think? Are we getting future Unova titles, or am I just being a typical Gen 5 Freak! I can't say this. Gen 5 fanboy. I'm keeping that in there, I don't care. You gotta let me know what you think. Thanks for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed. Take care of yourselves, have a wonderful day, and I will see you over on the next video, alright? Later.